So it's been about 4 years since my Camaro here got painted by Mako. This is how it's holding up. So this is my 1986 Chevy Camaro. It's got an LS swap with a Forge 6.0, LSA supercharger, a whole bunch of stuff. I got a whole playlist on it if you want to go check it out. Link's gonna be right there at the top of the screen. But I'm making this video today kind of in response to a video that Bearded Reviews put out. He has a Camaro project that he's working on, and he recently had a bad experience with Mako. So I figured it would be a good time to kind of put the update out on my car, because I had this car painted by Mako back in July of 2017. So we're coming up on 4 years. And for the most part, it looks pretty good, but my experience and the quality of work that Mako actually did was questionable, to say the least. So to start off, this car did not look like this when it rolled out of Mako's spray booth. Like I said, I had this car painted back in 2017, and at the time I wanted something, I wanted it to look good. I already did the engine swap. I was already driving it almost every day. I just wanted some nice shiny paint, and I wanted it to be, not SEMA quality, but good enough. And the way the car sits right now, I think, well, at least to my standards, I surpassed that. For what I paid, this looks freaking great to me, especially for being a Mako job. Now, once again, the car did not leave Mako looking like this. And to kind of add on to what Bearded Reviews said with his experience, they seem to promise you the world, but they don't deliver any of it. So first off, all the prep work done to this car, I did myself. I mean, everything. I handed them this car on a silver platter. So for instance, both front bumpers, well, the front bumper and the rear bumper, I unbolted them and I slid them back just to make sure they don't paint over this space where the two connect. In addition to that, I gave it to them without headlights, without turn signal bulbs. The front chin spoiler was off, the grille was removed, all the emblems were removed, all the weather stripping was removed, the drip rail moldings. I drove it there with taillights. When I got there, I pulled the taillights out. I knew that if I wanted no overspray, I was gonna have to remove the parts. So all these drip rail moldings, the weather stripping in here, all this stuff was out. The only thing I left in was the glass, and I even removed the door handle and the door lock. This weather stripping here was pulled out. The metal behind the weather stripping that screws into the body, I had that removed, so everything under here is all blue. This door sweep down here was also removed, as well as both door panels. I gave it to them without mirrors, without this little section here. This little triangle plastic piece that goes behind the mirror, I had that removed, as well as the windshield trim here, the rubber, I had that ripped out. Nothing there. Coming around back, the spoiler is off of it, the gas door was off of it, and like I said, when I got there, I pulled both of the taillights out. The marker lights were out, and all of the ground effects, I handed to them off the car. So all that stuff got sprayed off the car. Once again, I had the door handle removed, the door lock, and the ground effects back here, and the bumpers, once again, they were left on. I just loosened the bolts and pulled them away, so there's about 1/4 of an inch space there, just so they don't shoot paint over that gap. Now, I know that already seems like a lot of work, but in addition to all that, I completely prepped the car. Every ding that I didn't want to see, every little bit of rust that had to be cut out and patched, any little bit of waviness in a panel, any chips, anything like that that I thought they were just going to spray over, I went in and I prepped myself. I took the car down to almost bare metal. I sprayed it in my driveway with the spray gun and epoxy primer. So I first sanded the car down, I hit it with epoxy primer, then I hit it with a bunch of high build primer after, fixing the rust and stuff. And then I proceeded to get some blocks, like a painter's sanding block kit that a body guide would use, and I just sat there blocking every single panel in my driveway until I could get it as flat as possible. I had a lot of dings on this door I fixed. There was a rust spot on this side of the body, actually. This whole section of rocker here, I pulled out and welded a patching because it was rotted. This here is a film. I put a vinyl clear on there just to keep the rock chips from kind of destroying that area. That's why you see that like line there that almost looks like a scratch. But yeah, I fixed rust there. I fixed rust here. And then the last thing I did was remove the lip spoiler, and I put the 92 Z28 style spoiler, and I welded up the holes that were here for the old one, and I bonded them up, I block sanded them, primed it. Now after that was done, I proceeded to wet sand the entire car, the high build primer, with 600 grit sandpaper. I didn't want to see any sanding, scratches, nothing like that, because I could do a job, you know, I kind of know how it's going to come out. If I spend this much time on something, maybe I can get it 90%, 95% of the way. If I want it done quicker, you know, obviously it's not going to be as good, but you know, I'm doing it myself. I'm not paying anybody to do it, and it's on me if it looks like shit. When you bring it somewhere, you're paying somebody to do the job. You're expecting 100%. I mean, granted, it's a MAACO, which is why I went and did all this myself, but still, if they can't do something, they should let you know. When I got this painted, I paid $2,600. I paid for the base coat, clear coat job. I think that's what Bearder Reviews paid as well. And that means they put it in the painting booth. It's not being sprayed in the garage where dust and bugs can get in it. And it's supposed to be the highest quality paint job they offer. It's not just a, you know, pay and spray fleet garbage outside kind of paint job. And all these steps that I took definitely paid off by me doing the bodywork. Now, the funny part is, I did 99% of the body work. The part where I got lazy, and I regret to this day, is the back bumper. So all this prep work I did a week off from work. I took a week of vacation. I did this in the driveway, the priming, everything. I didn't want to do all this body work and then go ahead and try spraying the car just because I'm outside. You know, even with the tent, you're going to get gnats and stuff in the clear coat. It was going to come out like crap. I actually test sprayed the hood, and I had bugs and like pollen and stuff in it. It wasn't going to happen. I knew I was not going to like the paint job, and with all the body work I put into it, I wanted to at least have it sprayed inside. I figured as bad as they could spray it, you could always fix it with the color sanding. So when it comes to the bumper here, I did everything else on the car except for this. This had some peeling paint right in here. There was peeling paint at the bottom. And basically it had to be kind of meticulously sanded in this groove here, down here. The whole bumper had to be taken down, sanded. Little spots kind of had to be filled, and it had to be sprayed. And when I came to them, I said, everything else is done. I don't want anything else, you know, prepped. Can you just prep the bumper? I don't care what it costs, just get the bumper as good as you can get it, perfect. I'll pay whatever. If the paint job's $2,600, you want to charge me an extra $800 just to make the bumper look great, I don't care. I was so beat at that point. I just wanted it done, and I was willing to pay to have it done. So all MAACO had to do was sand and prep the back bumper. And honestly, I'm not sure they did much of anything. For one thing, out of the entire car, the rear bumper is the only thing that has peeling paint. On top of that, there are spots where you could see they clearly didn't sand down because there are just blatant chips that they sprayed over that are not smooth at all. Down towards the bottom of the bumper here, it is starting to peel off pretty heavily, and a large chunk actually came off on this ground effects side that I since kind of just blotched with touch-up paint, so it's not super obvious. I have yet to remedy this just because it matches the car perfectly, and I'm afraid if I bring it somewhere and I have it done at an actual, you know, good body shop, I'm still a little 50-50 of how the color is going to match because, you know, MAACO sprayed it. I don't know how many coats they did, but I'm planning on getting it fixed soon. But by all means, you know, I know this car is probably going to have to be painted again at some point, but so far for almost 4 years, aside from the bumper thing, the rest of the car is holding up fine. So yeah, there are no tricks here. The car does look as good as it does on camera, if not better in person. I've had body shops, I had to get some PDR done, a shopping cart hit it in the back, they popped the dent out, you can't even tell that it happened. Whoever I tell, they can't believe that this car is painted at MAACO. And what that comes down to is when I got it back, I spent literally a week wet sanding the orange off of it. The entire car was covered in orange peel. It looked like they had the pressure set. I'm not a painter. I'm assuming if the pressure was too low, it's gonna not spray enough paint and it's gonna cause a lot of orange peel. I'm not sure. But the car, the hood in particular, and the front bumper, just covered in heavy orange peel. Part of the package that I paid $2,600 for, that the representative was boasting about, you know, he's like, oh, this thing's gonna look great. You're gonna get the base coat clear. You wanna get the color sand. That's gonna really finish it off and make it pop. It's gonna be nice and flat. It's gonna shine more. So for an extra 400 or whatever, I'm like, okay, do the color sanding. Well, they had the car for about 2 weeks when they basically just gave up, and I guess gave it back to me because I kept calling after the first week, hey, how's it going? I would pass by, the car didn't seem to move, it was just parked outside. And then eventually they called me up, like, okay, you could come and get it. When I got it, I found a microfiber cloth in the car. It looked like they were still color sanding it, and there was just so much orange peel, they just gave up because the tops of the doors were decently flat, like the large section at the top of it was, you know, pretty good, but the hood, totally orange peeled, the front of the bumper, orange peeled. Basically, they just did the tops of the doors and the tops of the quarter panels in some spots, and they gave up, I guess, and they left it. I didn't want them to keep the car anymore. All I was really paying them for was their paint booth, for them to spray the color on, and that was it. I knew there was gonna be orange peel. I knew I was gonna touch it up when I got home. And after about a week of work, this is what I ended up with. Still to this day, I'm really happy with the paint job. The paint looks almost wet, it's flat. I got all the orange peel off, a huge amount of labor, but you know, at least they sprayed enough clear coat where I was able to take it down and, you know, make it look this good. And I have heard that some locations are better than others. It is a chain, so obviously depending on who owns it, you know, you can have really, really good work like a regular reputable body shop, or you can have chain work like a Jiffy Lube. I seem to get somewhere in the middle because the spraying was decent, but the prep was just atrocious. The other stuff like the trim, the window drip rails, all the black stuff I painted myself. I painted the headlight buckets, I painted the trim, and then I basically reassembled the car after the wet sanding. That's why I have absolutely no overspray. They did the door jambs, which actually came out pretty good. There was no overspray on the interior, luckily. So once again, I hope this was able to help some of you guys out. If you could do the body work, you could do the prep work, and you don't want to spend a whole lot having somebody spray it, or you don't really know what you're doing when it comes to spraying, like me, I kind of test, like I said, I tested the hood and the metallic flake, it wasn't really distributed too well. And like I said, I did it in the driveway, so I got bugs in it. That's when I said, okay, I'm just gonna do the prep and I'm gonna have Mako spray it. And like I said, it does look good, but you have to be willing to do all that extra work, or it's just gonna look like dog shit. Like, they do not care at all. You go in there, they're like, oh yeah, this thing's gonna look great. I had one of these when I was in high school or whatever, and we'll do this for you. Oh, you want us to do this? We'll color sand it, blah, 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 write it all off, throw it all on the paper, get your money, and then it sits there, they just spray it and forget about it, basically. And for the record, I did go back and I did speak to them about the rear bumper because it looked like total crap. I'm like, you prepped this? It doesn't look like you prepped it. And he was going to respray it for me if I did the body work. So they weren't gonna fix the body work. They said if I fix it, get it to my standards, they'll spray it, which was a load of crap. I never bothered to do it because it was such, you know, it wasn't peeling at the time. It was just kind of, you could see the chips that they sprayed over, so I just left it. But yeah, I'll get it fixed one day. And for now, that's my 4-year update on the Camaro's Mako paint job. I'll see you guys in a few days.